This is my 10-minute interview with Peter Cassidy of the APWG, the Anti-Phishing Working Group, which is the world's largest coalition fighting internet crime. Peter is the go-to expert and just has a brilliant mind on anything related to digital security. He runs the APWG and he is the co-founder. Please have a listen.
My name's Peter Cassidy. I'm one of the co-founders of the Anti-Phishing Working Group, which is known most places as APWG. Besides being the co-founder, my title is Secretary General, which generally shakes out to mean General Manager and Director of Programs Development. I was there at the beginning and had to give definition to what the APWG would evolve into. Among my contributions are the founding of the eCrime Conference, which is a peer-reviewed published research conference that brings in university and industrial researchers from around the world every year. It's moved 150 papers. And the establishment of the Stop, Think, Connect messaging convention, which manages a global shared assets cybersecurity awareness program that was been adopted by the government of the United States in 2010 and 22 other countries since 2010, mostly by cabinet level ministries and some large national NGOs.
What does the APWG do?
Broadly, the APWG unifies efforts between and among stakeholders for the programmatic suppression of cybercrime worldwide. And by cybercrime, I mean mostly predictable, common cybercrimes, not the very James Bond stuff that involves, very deep and large-scale orchestration, although some of the data we collect and distribute does touch on some of that stuff. We do our job through data exchange, through shared research, through the eCrime Conference, as I discussed, and through awareness programs and policy discussions that speak to issues of programmatic suppression of cybercrime or universalized responses to cybercrime. For data exchange, we have a clearinghouse. It's a classical model clearinghouse called the eCrime Exchange that allows our members to write and read right now upwards of 1 billion plus data elements per month outbound to our members. And the data we exchange are things like phishing URLs, IP addresses associated with crime events, maliciously registered domain names, and cryptocurrency wallet addresses that have been associated with criminal enterprise and cash out attempts and ransom attempts.
Who can join the APWG?
Any stakeholder from industry, from government, from academia, from law enforcement, or from multilateral treaty organizations can join the APWG almost immediately. We have a short vetting sequence we put people through. But if you're a stakeholder and you have a role in somehow suppressing cybercrime, understanding it, building policy around it, or researching it, we'll find a place for you. And in a lot of cases, we'll have data for you.
Why is fighting abuse important?
Fighting abuse is important in microscopic and macroscopic dimensions. We need to secure the economy, but to secure the economy here actually really means we need to safeguard the individual consumers and the individual members of enterprise workforces. And we need to do that in the global term of we, is because we need to stop organized crime from assuming a commanding place in the economy. It's estimated, 5% of the global economy is laundered criminal enterprise. A lot of people think that's low. And we're in a situation where we have growing forms of currency which are neither observed nor governed nor monitored by governments. And you have crime that didn't exist 15 years ago and grows every single quarter. You have to ask yourself, is there a larger question than we can have than stopping cybercrime before it reaches a critical mass in terms of command of the economy? Because the question is not so much, do we stop stuff that's bad? No, we need to stop stuff that's bad before it it grows to a power where it can distort the economy and start affecting all of us in ways that we would call unwholesome.
What is Stop, Think, Connect?
Stop, Think, Connect is a global cybersecurity awareness campaign of shared media assets that was developed and tested by industry and government as a coalition that was organized by the APWG in 2009. We had a bunch of very rigorously and exactingly instrumented papers come through the research conference in Pittsburgh in 2007 that spoke to human responses to cybercrime. And big banks and big retailers grabbed me in the hallway and said, so we know all about how people get themselves in trouble, our customers. So you're going to use those papers and figure out how to stop our customers from getting in trouble, right? Good, because we're going to get lunch. And when we come back, you'll tell us how you'll use those papers to do exactly that. So I didn't go to lunch. I started talking to the researchers about their papers. And I said, is there something we can do to use this knowledge? And they said, we have to teach people. But how you teach them and at what level and at what frequency is really the story we have to get to. And I ended up talking to industrial researchers, people who do focus groups, and they said, you're not doing anything too much different than what we did with forest fires in the 50s when the middle class was suddenly rich enough to go camping for weeks at a time in relatively new national parks. We had to do something. So we came up with Smokey Bear. And guess what? Over time, forest fires in national parks ceased to become a problem. So we've done the same thing with cyber. We got a bunch of big companies and big governments together and organized the Stop, Think, Connect campaign. The Department of Homeland Security established it as the United States government's awareness campaign in 2010. And since 2014, we've established another 22 national campaigns. We've just signed memorandums of understanding for campaigns in Ireland and in Argentina. We will continue to drive the campaign to the other 173 other countries where it needs to be. It is a global campaign that seeks to basically change human behavior in a very slight but profound way. We want to slow down human response from video game response to refinance the mortgage. We want to change the consideration of things that are engaged over the internet from thinking fast to thinking slow in the Thinking Fast and Slow book context of the Kahneman book on human behavior.
What is job one for companies looking to improve their cybersecurity?
Job one is assessing the entire cyber risk threatscape that they have to manage, including counterparties. Some security experts would argue, especially counterparties. And that is knowing the entire surface that you have to manage at a fully informed way in order to understand the risks that you have to suppress programmatically. I think that's job one. And it's a big question. And the problem with job one is a lot of the answer to the question is outside the enterprise and outside of the home.
Okay, if you could fix one thing on the internet, what would it be?
The built computing environment. The thing that we all have to work through in order to do our banking, our shopping, our management of business books, telecommunications with neighbors, business correspondents, and family. The built computing environment is just assumed to have arrived on a beam of light, and it is not to be questioned. It's just assumed to be, of divine delivery, and there's nothing that can be done about it. And the problem we face right now is the biggest instrument of cybercrime is phishing, and phishing is a behavioral story. It's almost completely behavioral. If you take the people out, it doesn't happen. If you could stop phishing, you'd stop 95% of cybercrime, because people talk about ATPs, they talk about BECs, they talk about ransomware and all this stuff. When you peel away all the neologisms that the consulting companies come up with, you have some form of phishing or another. And phishing depends upon the ambiguity of the environment that we inhabit when we're phished. And the environment we inhabit is the operating system browser duopoly. And my sense is if we really understood the built computing environment down to the level of how it informs or disinforms or malforms the decision making of the user, we would be halfway to figuring out how to stop phishing, because the signaling systems we have are either so incomplete or so ambiguous that they allow an industry called phishing to grow quarter after quarter unchecked.
Well, thanks to Peter for all the information about what he's up to at the APWG and for all of your wise opinions. Always very helpful to hear what you've got to say. If you'd like to check out the full interview, we did a written one with him, and that's on our blog. Also, go to abusestats.com and get free tailor-made reports on any TLD, name server, IP address, or list of domain names. Thanks.